All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to welcome back on this individual fighting in a different combat sport now. We were talking bare knuckle last time out, but putting on the gloves now for Misfits Mania, which transpires on December the 20th. And that women's middleweight title is vacant with Pearl Gonzalez and Tai Emery throwing down for that gold. And great having Tai on Bowks Talking Bouts today. How you doing, Tai?
G'day, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me back on. And you're right. I think last time it was bare knuckle, and now we're putting the gloves on. So kind of interesting, because I feel like everyone's kind of I'm doing a reverse. Usually people leave BKFC for the end, and the end of the career, and I'm kind of gone sidestep and gone put the gloves on, which is cool.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I feel like you've been obviously you're orienting it to like a bare knuckle competitive context, but a lot of the training would be presumably oriented to that straight ahead glove boxing dynamic. So cool that we get to see that in like a live competitive sense here and everything.
I that's what I think. I think it's like Misfits is a crossover, and they are getting more boxing heavy, which is also cool. And they've just opened up the Misfit Pro, so potentially maybe they'll take people from the Misfit card and put them in the pro rankings for that as well. But I think that's like the interesting pull that boxing can do at the moment, and what Misfits is doing is like they've got this entertainment, and here, like for me, I'm going against Pearl Gonzalez. She's UFC, so we've got a UFC ex-UFC striking versus a bare knuckle BKFC striking, which is what makes it interesting when we're putting gloves on, because everybody knows that boxing is a completely different sport and bare knuckle is not boxing. And I think once people start sort of realizing that, I think, then they'll start to, I guess, give more appreciation to each sort of martial art, whether I guess bare knuckle will ever be seen as a martial art, so to say. But for me, yeah, even with power slap, even with bare knuckle, everything's very boxing heavy, Um, I think the training for this has changed. I definitely did, I did know that it would be a really big challenge. And then, yeah, you start to realize, oh my gosh, boxing, there's just so more angles, there's much more footwork, there's way more finesse, which will be cool to show the evolution of like how I am going as a fighter. I think that's the cool aspect, is I'll get to show, I'm not just a brute. But I know me, I'm gonna go broody.
Yeah, I guess it's cool to get like the outside opportunities too. Like I guess maintain a certain linear path with a league like BKFC, but then if say a glove boxing opportunity like this comes up, you have that certain freedom to, go out and pursue that and everything. And yeah, quite the year just with different opportunities in that vein, just multiple different, combat sports oriented efforts throughout the calendar year. So it kind of speaks to the point I'm talking about.
For sure. I'm really lucky. I'm one of the very few, I guess, athletes that is a multifaceted athlete and can go and do these crossovers and see kind of where my talent can take me. I think that's exciting to be able to do that. I think maybe some fighters can get stuck in certain ways, but I definitely am someone who can understand like being able to use different platforms to just grow as a person, build a bigger audience, I guess, and I guess bring more people's eyes to sport.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. And I would think there would be like a certain like creative stimulation kind of piece. Like just certain fighters I talk to almost do look at it through that lens of like the art piece, like accentuating the A in mixed martial arts just to kind of orient it to that specific sport and whatnot. So maybe even in that sense, just like that, I guess, creative multiplicity kind of piece, if you happen to look at it through that prism, I guess.
For sure. I think we're violent artists, everybody has their own art form, and I think, ours is just violent art. That's all.
No, absolutely. I guess how did this Misfits opportunity specifically come about? Like, I would think that there'd be a certain like proximity point just with like where the event's taking place and your training history there potentially. But how did it ultimately come about?
Story time. Okay, this has been transpired for like nearly 2 years. I think it was when I decided to leave Thailand. After that last, I think I had the fight against who was their belt holder as well. Yeah, I've only ever lost to belt holders, so not a bad run, not the worst losses in my life. But it was when I was just searching and I knew that I was reaching the platform and, kind of realized, okay, well, this is a small opportunity, a small window. So I just, I ended up choosing Dubai to live in Dubai. I loved TK MMA. I loved the safety that Dubai can give. And yeah, I actually flew to London specifically to go to a Misfits Boxing, just because I thought, you know, I looked at myself as a character, I looked at myself as an athlete, and I could see myself being able to fit in there. Same as Power Slap, same as BKFC. I just knew that I could fit in some way. So I actually flew to London specifically to shake hands with Mams. I remember telling people, and they're like, "You're crazy. Have you like touched base with him? Have you met him before? Have you messaged him?" And I said, "No." I said, "I just." I've got my outfit ready. I've got I've got the ticket. I've got my little in to go to weigh-ins and see the media. And I said I just have a very good sense of being able to track people down. And yeah, I said I'll just put it in my own hands. So I remember when I knew it was him. He had a cowboy hat on, and I instantly was like, "That's the guy." And then someone literally rubbed my shoulder and went, "That's Mams Taylor," and I knew, and I went up to him and I shook his hand and I said, "G'day, mate." I said, "My name's Tai Emery." I said, I fight for BKFC. And I said, "I'd love to fight for you guys one day." And I just remember he went, I'm sure he hears this a lot. So I just remember his face was kind of like, "Oh yeah, we've heard that before." But at the same time, it's very hard to say no when someone's super glammed up and you're just like, "This is where I can be, like this is where I can be, and this is what I can kind of do for you." While I was out there, the tabloids over in UK went kind of crazy, which definitely helped my cause for pushing it all. And then once a few tabloids were like, "Timer is interested in Misfits," I hit up Mams Taylor and I sent him I just spoke with him and I said, "So what's your thoughts?" And he always kept me like how I'd fit in. They have storylines, Misfits, and I think all promotions have storylines, in the backdrop. So it was always about timing. And at that time, they had Elle. Elle did so much for the sport, and she did some crazy, new things for women in sport. Even after fighting Paige and just being able to really do like a really good run. She's a great boxer. So I think once her chapter finished, that allowed the opening. Originally, they wanted me to fight. Who's the one? Oh, the Brazilian sugar. I forget her name right now.
Jully Poca,
Beautiful.
I believe.
Yes, that's her. Sorry, Julie. Love you. But yeah, they wanted me to fight her at 145, and I kind of thought about it. I'm like, of course, I said yes. But he asked me the day after I just said yes to fighting at 115 versus Britt in BKFC, and obviously I love bare knuckle, but bare knuckle's like just the love of my life. Who knows what would have happened if he'd been 24 hours earlier. But yeah, 145 is quite large for me. And then I think after him seeing me fight at 115, I hit him up and said, "So I think 145 is a bit too big for me. I hope you can kind of see from there." And he said, "Yeah, I think you'd be better at 125." And then yeah, it kind of just all transpired once Elle vacated the belt. Things kind of went crazy in that way. And when a belt is sitting up there vacated, I think he began the hunt to find two women that no matter who wins, they've got a misfit champion. And I think, and Pearl and we both, man, I'm going to say this at the press conference, but put it back to I think we're both a draw four. We're both a draw four card. We tits, ass, face, and talent. So there's now you've got a draw eight on our fight, and I think that's just like pure misfit mania.
I guess like to the point of like talking about like narrative and storyline pieces, like what would be the I guess narrative for this Pearl Gonzalez fight then? Like I guess why in your I guess I'm ultimately asking you to I guess make an inference as to what Misfits saw in terms of like the storyline or narrative pieces, but like what do you I guess see in this particular title fight with Pearl? I mean, you referenced like the UFC base that she has, and you guys have both fought in BKFC, but like what would be that narrative just to go back to a comment you'd previously made?
I think we both are definitely unique in the female fighting world. Um, Maybe just because of the beauty aspect and the we're very, very feminine. And I think we both like hold a very masculine and feminine balance, which is why I think either of us being crowned is like, they're never going to find a loser. I think we don't. Neither of us hate each other. We don't need. We're both great fighters. We've both had a lot of. Well, she's had obviously a lot more experience than me. I actually feel like she got cut from the UFC too fast. So who knows, kind of like the backstory in that. So I kind of feel like for the both of us, we've um, maybe maybe we've been held back because of the way that we look, or I feel like maybe we've been given opportunities, but I also feel like maybe we've got like pieces that are have been left on like stones left unturned. I even watched her fight versus Britt, and it was crazy. I actually thought she beat Britt for the belt as well, and I think I pushed Britt for the belt too. So even in that aspect, I think, yeah, I know it's going to be a hell of a fight, and I think we've both deserving of a title. Um, so I think maybe yeah, the storyline is definitely just yeah, two women that never gave up, and I'm sure maybe a lot of people who got cut from UFC or finishing and other things would probably give up. And Pearl's never given up. She's stayed quite active. She continued in game bred boxing, and she kept at it, even fighting in. I don't know if she fought in Victor again, but I do know that she fought some MMA cards as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to me, that tells me someone who she loves being a fighter. Like she didn't give up, and I definitely have those same traits as well. Um, so I don't know if that's the reason why they chose both of us. Um, but I definitely feel like both of us have never given up, even when we've been redirected somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean the resilience pieces are there, and that's a great point to mention. I just feel like the X's and O's of the matchup too. It just would seem like a very exciting fight. Like both of you have great track records for having those really exciting performances. So I mean, even in terms of like the X's and O's of the actual fight, definitely an exciting one. Like I don't know, it's like one of those fights when I saw the poster come out, I was like, oh, this makes complete sense. Like it's one of those fights where you're like, how has
Yeah.
this not happened before, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I have actually had a lot of comments. Everyone say that they're like, I am so excited for this one, which is cool. I love being able to know that like the fight community and even outside the fight community, people have gone, oh my gosh, yes. And if that's the whole point, we want people to feel, we want people to watch us fight, and we want people to feel something, feel alive, feel invested, and like be excited by it.
Yeah, of course. And I guess there's something too with like the fact that like the combat sports calendar on a broader level is kind of like, I guess, narrowing in a little bit, like just to serve the idea that I feel like it's one of like the big events going on to kind of close out the year and stuff like that. Like obviously Ryzen has like their New Year's card and there's certain things in that kind of way. But I mean, it seems like one of the bigger kind of events is we're kind of ending off 2025. So maybe some compounded focus on just the overall event from that.
Yeah, I was actually meant to have my debut in boxing on the last Rising card. But Ryan Garcia, I was in Ryan Garcia's group, and it was in one of the contracts that myself and I think his brother and a few other fighters, if he was to fight, we were going to be given bouts. But then, yeah, that didn't pull off. So it'll be nice this year. I'll, get to close out the year, and then I'll actually get to you know, eat something for Christmas, eat something for New Year's, and then eat something for my birthday. It'll be the first time in a long time, actually.
Yeah, I guess considering your schedule, you probably always have something going on and that you're preparing for where you can't have those indulgences, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the chapter we like kind of live for. And I think yeah, that discipline and like making it just always a part of your life, 365, 24/7. I think that's why I've been able to do so well in such a little time, is yeah, because of that. So it's all good. You can eat cakes and pies, later in life. Although I want them now.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I guess there's that certain like benefit of like staying locked in and you see it, pay dividends and etc. But yeah, I mean, such an interesting event. Like I feel like the involvement of Andrew Tate has certainly been getting quite a bit of attention too. And I guess like the ownership piece or just him being a figurehead, I'm not sure what the nomenclature he would prefer in that kind of sense would be. Like, do you have any thoughts on his involvement or just the discourse around that? I mean, he's also fighting on this card, but it seems like also situated in a bit of a promotional or promoter kind of capacity, rather.
I think it is, and I think it's smart. PFL went with Ray Sefo, BKFC went with Conor McGregor, and Misfits Boxing has gone with Andrew Tate. And I think each of those characters is perfect for that promotion, as that like sort of like face of the company. I think also where the new direction of Misfits is going, and the evolution of the promotion, I think Andrew is going to be able to be the one to take it there. Isn't he like the most viral or like most famous human being of our time, like in this era? Isn't like, I feel like that's some fact. ChatGPT will fix me out later
Yeah.
when I Google that. But yeah, he's witty, he's intelligent, he's a great businessman. So if someone like him is taking on a project like this, I think that already brings different eyes and attention. Just because he's not someone to go into anything, I don't think that man's probably done anything he's never not wanted to do, or something that wouldn't, make him either feel alive, or bring something of greater value.
Yeah, it's
Plus,
kind of interesting.
he'll make it a shit show, Like, I already know, like, this is going to be funny. I'm gonna have to try not to like be like losing control in laughter. It'll be very, very interesting. And also, I think when someone wants to be able to pump up boxers and athletes and bring attention to the sport, like that's such a good thing.
Yeah, it definitely
Thank you, Mr.
functions.
Tate.
Yeah, yeah, sorry. It definitely is like a signal
Sorry.
boosting kind of piece and whatnot. So, yeah, and I was seeing an article or like a, believe it was like a quote the other day where it's kind of like, oh, okay, I see like why they're putting him in that kind of position too, because he was like kind of, I guess, bantering with Jake Paul a little bit, like talking about how there seems to be like a vying for a certain spot in the boxing promotion space between like MVP and Misfits in a certain regard. So yeah, good to create those kind of tendrils and that trash talk. And I mean, that's a good point that you mentioned about like kind of having that figurehead sort of person to kind of like signal boost and stuff like that. I guess to the point of his actual fight against Chase Demore, like how do you see that playing out on this card?
Man, I get so like one-sided, and then I just completely go the other side. Just because I saw like size difference, but at the same time, when you've got someone in front of you and they've got just like a different energy about them, the mental aspect can completely play on someone. And I think Andrew has like an energy and an ambience about him that would be very hard to be around. Confidence can kill, and so I think it's a pretty fair fight. I think it'll be very interesting how it plays out. Either way, it's neither loss for either. It's Andrew's first fight back in how many years? And then the belt holder, he's still young, so even if he's to lose, this is the biggest fight of his career, win or lose. He's just pulled a lot of eyes onto himself, and he has a long way ahead to be able to come back from a loss by Andrew Tate. And it's definitely evident he's not a real boxer. Just from he's very unorthodox, I'd like to say, and you can see he's still learning, and getting crisper. And I think people would, let's say he loses, people would be able to go on and see where he's come from in his striking, and then from here on be able to watch him continue to evolve. So same for Andrew. I think they've already put him on, labeled two of the cards that he's headlining, and I think the other one was Darren, and who would be headlining in the proposed cards for next year. So yeah, I think either way, I think it's going to be a very exciting one. Someone said they're not going on till like 3 a.m. So
Oh.
this is it's going to be a long night. I'm hoping I hope that rumor is not true.
Yeah, that would I don't know, some sleepy time for sure. You got to get the pot of coffee going if you want to peep that main event, I guess.
Well, I'll be on adrenaline high, so I won't be sleeping for 2 days.
I mean, you'll be good, yeah.
I'm like,
You did mention something interesting though, and this might even be a hard thing to answer, but you were talking about, I guess, like that variable of, the confidence, like how much that can behoove a fighter and just really benefit, people in this life in general in a certain regard. Like just you giving that prior anecdote about showing up to that Misfits event and just kind of talking to mams and people were like, well, have you touched base with him? Like it's like that kind of imparts a certain level of, confidence and assuredness to me. Like how much of a variable do you think that has been in your journey, because you've talked about how like your, I guess, actual like X's and O's refining the skills piece isn't maybe as deep as some other fighters per se, but like that certain stick to itiveness and the confidence piece, like how much do you think that has benefited the overall journey?
it's I've created the best life, and it's been from like the beginning. Even at 18, when I was like, I'm going to be a magazine model. We didn't have Instagram back then, guys. That's how old I am. But I always just I know who I am and I know where I'm going, and I've always had a confidence in that. And even down to going, okay, I finished my electrical apprenticeship and no one wanted to give me a job, and I thought, well, how can I fix that? And I thought, well, I could just become the boss. So I went and did a business degree, like a little business degree that could go on my contractor's license, and I could get it. That's one thing about me, is if I want something, I'm going to go after it until I die. So even for me, win or lose, I think I embody a courage and a persistence in life that a lot of people can look to and at least give respect and admiration and some sort of inspiration as well. Um, yeah, win or lose, I'm going after everything. And, I think I kind of always give myself to a greater cause. And because of that, I just feel like I'm constantly winning. I'm constantly winning in life.
Yeah, I think you go about it in a good way too. Like it seems like you're really into like journaling and like just having that like certain consistent like, I guess, like accountability thread through everything you do. So yeah, something to that as well, like just the benefits of, that discipline oriented kind of piece and stuff like that, and just the adaptability that you mentioned
Yeah.
there. And I was kind of thinking too, because I'm pretty sure, isn't that how you and Britton Hart kind of mended fences too? Like she reached out to you because she was trying to get an electric apprenticeship going or something of that
Yes.
persuasion. And yeah, I thought that
Yeah.
was cool.
Yeah, it was. Because hey, I can't even hate on her for like, she just won a belt and then instantly, they've done this to her like twice or three times in interviews where they've just like harped and brought my name up. And I think she just had enough. But for me, I think that's why I did, like, I'm a good communicator if people want to communicate. If people don't want to speak, like, good on them. But once she started doing like her electrical stuff, she had a moment, and when she must have been having a bad day, a bad day in the office, and she realized, wow, if I'm doing this and this girl was already doing this for like 10 years, she goes, I need to take a step back, and I need to probably rethink on who she actually is as a person, as to what I'm thinking she is, or how the media is portraying Tai Emery, so to say. So when we spoke about it, we I would say we're friends. I would say we're actually friends, which is hard to say in the fight business, but yeah, I think that was a big thing for her to kind of like push things aside and talk. And yeah, she kind of realized that, yeah, I'm actually a really good human. So
Well, yeah, I mean, and you guys had such a great fight too, so kind of like tied together in that kind of sense as well. Like I feel like there's a certain kind of connectivity piece that more often than not happens from those kind of bigger fights and everything like that. So yeah, that was an
yeah.
exemplary fight you had with Britain at BKFC 71 there earlier this year. So yeah, probably would create a certain camaraderie even to add to that.
Oh, is it paused?
Oh,
Yeah. that's a war that people dream of, you know. I think I guess people, you know, I guess that's where it kind of separates what people are like really chasing like in their fights. But for me and for the people that really know me, they know that like being able to display that type of heart and perseverance and skill level, and what it was my fourth fight, and I'm already fighting at a world championship level. I think even just that alone is such like a big thing, and I have to remind myself of that. Even though you know I didn't get the belt, I have to remind myself of things like that all the time. Is you know, I got to have a war that'll put me straight into Valhalla.
Yeah, and something about the, I guess, dynamics, not that you would maybe necessarily be looking at it as like redemptive per se, but something cool about, having a championship fight in a different combat sport earlier this year, and you get to close out the year with, an opportunity to vie for gold in a different combat sport. So could potentially exit 2025 with the gold. And I mean, even what we were talking about before with how 2026 could look for Misfits. I mean, if you get your ideal outcome and win the title here, you could be along for quite a ride with Misfits in your own individual journey. So yeah, it seems like exciting times and whatnot. I mean, it always seems like exciting times for you, but especially now.
Especially now. A win in this is definitely going to be life changing. I got some really cool projects. You know, I want to go back over to South Africa and do missionary work early next year. I'd love to get back out doing like stuff like that, which this platform kind of allows me to, get to go and experience. And then, a few other opportunities coming with streaming from Gamdom and potentially Sigma, which is really cool. Working with speaking with David Meltzer, which is motivation speaking. There's always really cool things to do, but at the same time, I think being able to like walk with a belt and like push the career through with Misfits, there's man, the sky's the limits, and I know that Mams really gives to his champions. So, I'm going to manifest the hell out of a belt. I'm going to manifest the hell out of like the best life possible. And I know, yeah, good things will come.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel
Close
like
out
you've.
the year with a belt.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't
Sorry, I
quite
was
hear what you
like,
said
close
there.
out the year with a belt.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, super exciting for sure. And just, yeah, great to, like I said, follow along with the journey and stuff like that. I guess we've been doing interviews for a little bit now. And I guess kind of within that thread, just always cool things you're doing. I mean, like the first time we talked was ahead of that Super Horizon card where like Manny Pacquiao was on it and you were making history there with BKFC.
Oh my
So yeah, always cool things on the go, no doubt.
always good things, and that's like the crazy thing, that's why I love getting to even just do the interviews, because I do a recap and I'm like, man, I forget, it's not that
Yeah.
I forget, but I'm so like gym home. I'm so like locked in on that, because I know that by having like that super focus, that that's why I get to do these crazy opportunities. So I think for people, they see my life as like really boring. Well, for me, I love everything about it. I love just being at home and being at the gym, and then being able to fight on these crazy cards like okay, Boar Cow, and then my first ever co-main, and then what it was, yeah, Ryzen with Manny Pacquiao, and getting to like I met him there, and the crazy thing was he looked at me and goes, I saw your fight, having like people like Manny Pacquiao. Oh, I went to Mexico and got to spend a week watching Floyd Mayweather and speaking with him and having him give support. Like these are some crazy experiences that you can't pay to like have have. Yeah, even with Ryzen, I would think I was second fight. And then I finished the fight, and then someone come up and asked and said, "Hey, Pacquiao's team has invited you to come down with all the media and stuff while they're wrapping his hands." And I thought, this is amazing. Like this is what I just made history. First bare knuckle female bout in Japan. I just going down to watch Manny Pacquiao get his hands wrapped. You're just like, wow, these people who are so inspirational in and out of the ring want to rub shoulders with me, and I think what a cool life.
Yeah, manifesting all of it too. So very exciting. And I did notice some of those pieces as well, kind of going through your social media, like some of the, I guess, work you've done, kind of going out to Africa a little bit ago and just different projects you have on the go. So yeah, cool to see all of that. And it seems like you're very much centering the combat sports piece in its proper, I guess, priority alignment spot and all that. But yeah, it seems like you're always on the go and cool to, I guess, have that platform to allocate your attentions to different endeavors and stuff like that.
100%. The fighters platform is so unique because we kind of I kind of see we're like a DJ, like wherever we are, we're playing the music, So and I feel like fighters could be marketed in this sort of same way, and I don't think a lot kind of get that like about the sport and are able to really like mix combat with entertainment. Somehow I'm figuring it out, and I love that. I love seeing like little girls come into the gym, and I love having their parents tell me, "Oh, she knows that you train here, and she wants to train fighting it," and
Hmm.
that's when you're like, it's worth that's what it's all about, to have those moments. So yeah, all the projects, I hope like kids can see, yeah, you can be like these violent, peaceful beasts that can go out and save the world, you know.
Well, that's an incredible thought. I mean, that could even serve as a parting thought in and of itself, but also figured I'd give you the floor if there was anything you wanted to add specifically as we're kind of wrapping up, Ty. I always appreciate the time.
No, thanks. December 20, I think this is going to be, two world championships in 1 year. Man, not many people can say that they've even been given an opportunity for that. I'm going to give it hell. I'm going to give it my all. I've My whole life has been trained for all of these sorts of moments. Definitely a big challenge, but they always are. And hell yeah to Mams and Misfits for giving me a go.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming and everything like that. So great that it's finally coming to fruition and in a very exciting title fight, no less. This Pearl Gonzalez fight, definitely a very intriguing one. Certainly one of the standout fights for me on this Misfits Mania card. And like you said, December 20th, I'll be checking it out too. But yeah, thanks so much again for the time, Ty. You enjoy the rest of the preparations leading into this one. I imagine you're tapering off largely, but I mean, all the same, just all the best
Yeah.
leading into the fight and just looking forward to peeping it and have a good rest of your day too.
Thank you. Cheers heaps.